Welcome back to another leaf lesson. This lesson is talking about connecting that work we did with the stomata and the leaves and their water and doing our next work. So I think I misspoke at the end of the last video, so I just wanted to repeat what I was saying. So when the stomata are, how they're open or closed is depending on how thirsty the plant is. When they're full of water, I think I said they were closed, but what I meant to say is when they're full of water, they stay open because they don't need to keep the water in. When they're closed, that means they're trying to keep the water. They're trying not to lose their water because it's really important that plants don't have too much water in them. So when the stomata are open, that means they're full. And when they're closed, that means that they're trying to keep the water in the plant as much as they can. So that's just something to think about as we're looking at our leaves. Abby and I set up a plant a little bit earlier. It's actually not one of these Swedish ivies. This one is a coleus, and we always have so many coleus in the classroom because they're fun to grow. And we put it in this bag. I wiped this side off so we could see it. We put this little plant inside of this Ziploc bag, and we set it on the back porch to see what was going to happen. And what happened was this. You can see that it is foggy on this side. That's because I wiped off the other side. You can see it, and watch, there we go. I tapped it, and it collected water on the edges of the bag. That's because inside this bag, there is moisture. We call it humidity. So this little plant went into this empty Ziploc bag. And after just about an hour, maybe two, sitting in this bag, the stomata of this plant opened up and released their extra moisture, their extra water into the atmosphere inside this bag. You can see the water droplets. Oh, that one just ran down the side. You can see how much water came out of this plant as it sat in this bag. Now, it's not healthy for the plant to live inside this bag. It's very warm, so we'll be taking it back out. But I wanted you to see that one of the functions of a plant is that plants give off water. And it's important to know that because if you've ever gone hiking in a forest, you'll notice that the air feels different than outside of the forest. Maybe it feels more moist, or like when you breathe, you can kind of feel like maybe a cooling feeling. That's because the plants in the forest are giving off moisture. And so the air holds more water where there's lots of plants. That's also why in the desert, the air is very dry because there aren't a lot of plants that are giving off any water. They don't have any extra water to give off. Their stomatas are closed. They're keeping the water inside their leaves. So when we look at a plant that has been confined, in this case into this bag, we can see that the plant is giving off water. It's releasing water from inside the plant to the air that surrounds the plant. I'm not going to leave this in there. I'm going to take it back out because that plant needs oxygen. It needs to cool off, and we don't want to cook it inside that bag. So this lesson was called The Function of the Leaf, that leaves give off water. So now you've learned that plants take in carbon dioxide, and in this lesson we learned that leaves give off water. I have more functions of the leaf to share with you in another video. See you next time. So while I was thinking about these ideas of the plant in the Ziploc bag, I had colored a chart that I forgot to share with you, and so I want to share it with you now. Here we see our plant, our tree, and it's in a glass of water to show you the roots. And so usually when they're underground, the roots are brown and the ground is brown, but we're showing you that the plant is getting its water through its roots. And here's the stem and the leaves. And you can see the sun is doing something funny. The sun has a straw into the leaves of this plant, not into the cup, not into the ground, but into the leaves of this plant. Now, this is very interesting because when we were talking about stomata opening when there's water, when there's full of water, and closing when they're not full of water, this plant has a lot of water. It's feeding the water into the leaves. And then these leaves are giving off water into the air. So when we think about this, It's like the sun, the heat from the sun is causing the leaves to give off their moisture. But you notice that the straw is not full of water. Think about what is in the air. What is in the air around the plants? What is in the air in a forest? It's a gas form of water. It's when we talk about solids, liquids, gases, and it's not ice, it's not solid water, and it's not liquid water. It's water as a vapor in the atmosphere. So this straw is representing the vapor, the water vapor that leaves the leaves and enters the atmosphere. Isn't that interesting?